Hi, I'm Chris. I'm with the Northern Arizona Celtic Heritage Society, and this is Babs or Barbara, and she's going to show us today all about crepes. But first of all, before we get started, because there's a lot to talk about, I want to say thank you. And first, let's see, we've got my list here: Arizona Commission of the Arts, Flagstaff Arts Council, Flagstaff Community Foundation, City of Flagstaff, and Coconino County. Without their support and help, we wouldn't be able to bring these fun YouTubes to you. And this is all about crepes. Now, where did you first learn about crepes?
Well, I was in Brittany, France a few years ago, and in the town of Rennes, I wanted to have a meal in the late afternoon, having just come overnight on an airplane. And there was a creperie in town, and it was an old building. I remember how dark it was. And they were open from 6 in the morning till 6 in the evening. The people in France don't eat dinner till around 8. And so this was not a place for dinner. But I was there at 4:30, so it was good. And they make them to order. And I did have ham and Gruyere crepe for dinner with rocket on the side, which is...
rocket?
It's the European word for greens.
Like a small salad?
Well, it's not really. It's escarole and curly stuff. So it's kind of a fluffy green thing next to your crepe, and that's what I had for my main course. And then they offered desserts as well. So I had fresh strawberries with whipped cream. And I think they put a little bit of cinnamon in with it too.
Now that was just plain strawberries. It wasn't rolled up in a crepe.
Yeah, they were strawberries in a crepe.
So you had
with kind of a strawberry sauce in there, and then they put whipped cream on the top.
Oh, that sounds good.
But the menu was extremely extensive. It was ginormous. They had every imaginable kind of filling that you could have had. Everything was in French, so I had to find something that I could translate. And
that's always a challenge.
Yes, and it was a lot of fun because I think the French word for ham is jambon.
Yeah,
and
like
of course Gruyere, I knew what that was, and so it was wonderful. And one of the most important things I learned to do before I went to France was know the menu items, because if you make a mistake, you could be in trouble. I know that the word for rice and the word for, I think it's kidneys, is almost the same word.
Kidneys.
Yeah, I think lamb kidneys or something. It's almost the same word.
Oh, so you
gotta know your menu items, and I did.
Well,
so then I wanted to make crepes in the United States.
Well, how did you come up with this recipe? Because I'm sure there's lots of recipes, but what kind are we making today?
We're making buckwheat crepes, which are traditional to Brittany. And this is a particular kind of a flour that you usually don't use by itself. You mix it with other flours, and it's got a kind of a nutty taste to it. And this is traditional to Brittany. So
it's very dark.
It's very dark, yeah. So we're going to do buckwheat flour and regular flour mixed together.
Okay.
The recipe calls for 3/4 of a cup of buckwheat flour, which I've got measured, and a 1/3 cup of white flour, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, which you mix up to make it, all the same. And then I put 3 eggs.
Does it make any difference if they're room temperature or anything like that?
Everything should be room temperature, but
okay.
I think you can cheat.
Okay.
And 1 2/3 cup of milk. So it's kind of, the French version of a pancake recipe.
But it's very thin. It's a very thin batter.
Well, it's going to be a very thin pancake. So. And then the final thing is 3 tablespoons of melted butter. The ingredients are almost the same as pancakes. Pancakes have usually baking soda or baking powder in them to make them fluff up, but we're not doing that with this. They're not going to fluff up. They're going to be very, very thin.
Now, the crepes I've had are just like barely holding together, but they hold the ingredients.
Yes.
So it's
and
not
they're
a
very
real
fragile.
heavy meal.
They're very, very fragile. They're kind of like almost like an envelope for food, if you think about it. They're thinner than tortillas. Right, so
Definitely.
you mix it up like this. Some of the recipes call for letting the batter sit for a half an hour, but this one doesn't. And then we're going to cook them.
And this isn't on a high heat or anything. I just kind of
Medium
put
heat.
it, yeah,
Did you just turn that on?
yes. So it's
Okay.
probably going to take a little bit. We can melt our butter first. Now this is a little different than the way I used to make them. For a while there I was making crepes because they're so much fun and so versatile. We'd have crepe parties with our family, and we had a crepe maker, which was a little footed griddle with a real shallow pan like that, except, I mean, real shallow, like that's the only thing you could use it for. And it went upside down on this heating source. And so you would dip the bottom of this little pan in the batter, and it would stick to the pan, and then you'd heat it up on this heat source. But it kind of cracked on the edges and everything. I think this is much
The pan
easier.
version is better.
Yeah. The butter helps.
Well,
Butter always helps.
butter always helps. I don't think we're ready because the butter hasn't completely melted,
Okay.
but we're going to be ready in a minute here.
And you can put anything you want in these crepes.
Well, they're intended to be filled,
Uh-huh.
so we're gonna fill them, and we have some ham and some Gruyere, which we're gonna have put together, and we're also gonna make a dessert.
And then I noticed here that you didn't use plain old ordinary salt. You've got Celtic sea
Oh,
salt.
I forgot about that. Yes, Celtic salt. This is from the Celtic place, and the Celts originally were identified as salt traders. So how
Ah.
appropriate is that?
It is.
Well, that was interesting. Okay, I think I don't think it's ready yet.
Well, we'll find out.
Well, we don't want to put it in there before it's hot enough, because then it won't do its thing. So it's 3 tablespoons per crepe, and the important thing is to put it in there and immediately slide it all the way around so that it ends up being round.
There you go.
And I don't think it's quite hot enough, but it'll work. And you cook it for about a minute on each side, and you have to very gently with a spatula turn it over, and then
And they come out
looking like that.
kind of like different shapes and sizes depending on how you rolled the pan. And they're just lightly golden.
Well, they look like the moon's surface. Is
They
what
do. Well, the buckwheat, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now that we've got some crepes made ahead, what kind are you going to do? Because it's endless what we could do.
This is ham with Gruyere and some tomatoes folded over like that. And there's a lot of ways to fold. You could fold it into the middle or roll them up. And this one is...
We'll wait a little more ice
Right,
cream.
okay. This is Nutella, painted inside, folded over with vanilla ice cream as a dessert item.
And of course, you could always add whipped cream, crystallized ginger, anything you want. It sprinkles for the kids.
Sounds good. There's a lot of fruit crepes. You know,
Oh,
you could do
yeah.
bananas.
Bananas and Nutella goes very well
There
together.
you go. And that's another option. So,
And we used to fold it differently. Instead of over like a tortilla or a taco, we used to fold one side and the other
yeah,
side.
fold it into the middle like this, and fold it into the middle like this, and that's how it was in
When you had them.
in Ren. They folded it like
Now,
that.
was it turned over or the?
The top was like that
Oh, okay.
because you could see the ham and the cheese inside.
Yum. And
Yum.
garnish on the side. I mean,
Yes, it was wonderful.
So you can do savory. You can do anything.
Yes, and breakfast, lunch, and in France, not dinner.
Not dinner?
Not dinner in France.
Huh, okay.
Well, the place closed at 6, and
Oh,
they ate at
true.
8, so there's that.
Well, I know what we're having for dinner tonight. I guess we're not extremely traditional, but thank you so much for sharing with us.
You're welcome.